Yeah, I don't have a ton of things to say about this chapter. Like the first thing I would say is when he backs away from that guy. I got two things to say on that. Like when he's backing away, one, he says like he knew that if he went with them, he would have to tell what happened, and he was willing to leave a situation where he could have went with them and had some semblance of a family and a life again. He was willing to run away with that to avoid the story. So that goes back to the fact that he just told Bast and Chronicler this story, and Chronicler is writing this story about his parents being killed by the Chandrian. He's writing this down for the whole world to be able to read. And it shows you how far he's come from how unwilling he has always been to tell this story to now he's willing to tell the entire world what happened to him. So I think that, gives you an idea. It reiterates the point which we made previously, that I think he eventually tells his secret that he's been holding just deep down, that he's just not been willing to break through. I don't think that this was the first time he told his secret. But the other thing I wanted to bring up real quick is I like to imagine that the father and son, they kidnap little kids and then they make them little slaves on their farm, and that Kavoth thinks he screwed up by not going with them, but by not going with them, he saved himself of a dreary existence where he would have died as a slave. So that's one little bright spot. So as bad as Tarbean is, it was going to be way worse if he went with them. So if you ever read that and you felt bad and you're like, oh man, I wish you would have went with them, just realize it's hidden deep. It's hidden deep. Slaves. That was a slave trader.
Huh. Wow. You're probably right, Dan.
Yeah. No, I'm 100% right. It's clear.
Rothfuss will probably readdress that in book 3, I bet.
Oh, he'll 100% confirm that I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
That guy's a slave trader. He's a piece of shit, and you thought he was a good guy, and you were dead wrong.
Wow. I was actually going to say, I like that he went from what was a kind of heartening thing to find that there are actually good people in the world that are willing to help Kavoth, who we're rooting for, and then immediately after he meets savagery and just fucking awful situation to be in, and so we get that dichotomy. Just bam, it's very very abrupt. But there was a bit of what I think is a jewel on before Pike, where he talks about after his whole family was murdered. There's times where he would wake up and he would wake up from his dream and he would forget that his whole family's dead. He would think it's all just a bad dream. If you ever have a dream about like a dog you had when you were a kid or something, you wake up and then you remember, oh shit, they are all dead. So so he's got like 3 paragraphs where he sort of explains how he's had to adjust to that existence, and then that leads into bam. Then that's kind of in the middle of when. Actually, that's right after the loot broke.
Yeah.
So he's in the midst of getting his ass kicked, and then we get that little picture of, how his life has changed, how he's even getting into the mind of how that situation would change for an individual who wakes up and then has to remember that he's lost everything. And then he gets to get his ass kicked a little bit more. So it's pretty intense scene there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a rough scene for old little baby Koth.
What we're covering here, I really like the writing, the gradual transition of like preparing us for what ends up just being a living hell for a kid who's just lost everything, and then now he's getting into survival mode, and then he's forced to move into this world, and now it's like it's way worse. It was way worse than what it was when he was in the woods by himself.
Yeah, it's brutal, and that's not even close to the worst of it. Like, that was just his first day, and like then when he gets shit kicked out of him, he goes and looks for the slave traders that he thought were going to save him. When he comes back, thankfully they're gone, so he didn't get put into bondage to work on that guy's farm. So thankfully they 100% are. And so thankfully he was saved from that dreary hellhole of a life. But he goes and like tries to curl up on some shopkeeper's porch and, gets kicked out of there, and then just goes and, sleeps in an alley, buying some barrels for the night. And that's his first night in Tarbean.
He lost most of his belongings.
Pretty fucking sweet opening to Tarbean. Get you ready for what's to come, because it's pretty fucking brutal.
You ever had a good butternut squash, Dan? Because nobody who makes butternut squash, no way they could be slave traders.
Every slave trader lures little kids in with butternut squash.
Is that how they do it?
Yeah, that's a known thing in history. It's very famous in
history.
It's very famous in Roman history that slave traders used butternut squash.
Is that like the Pied Piper? He really wasn't playing a flute. He was just handing out squash.
Yeah, he just dragged buttered up squash behind him, and that's how he lured everybody in.
Huh.
So it's
just
like
historical facts that I'm dropping on everybody.
Okay, so if you see like a symbol of butternut squash, it's a symbol of slave trade.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Well.
Okay.
We all learned something, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, we're getting off topic here. You guys want to move on to the next chapter?
This is the most important thing we've covered.
There's a couple minor